Welcome to the Open Waters podcast, where we are venturing into the deep of what God is saying and doing through the body of Christ and through Open Waters worship.
Come join us as we grow in unity, relationships, and true intimacy with Jesus. Let's dive in. Let's go.
Awesome.
What's up? Hello.
Wow. Okay. We are on take number 2. We recorded the whole thing and then we were trying out some new mics and found out they don't work.
They were absolutely garbage.
Well, they work, but they ran out of battery really fast. So
they're just one of those things, you know.
it was a great try though.
It was the best try we could have, you know what I'm saying?
So here we are. Welcome to Open Waters Worship Podcast. We're so glad you're joining us again this week for our episode number 16. Whoop, whoop. I'm here, Lisa Campbell, with my son, Josiah Campbell Sanchez, and we have started a theme. We started it this month, and it's about the garden inside. So we had Open Waters Worship last night. Again, we're on our new rotation or our old rotation.
Mm-hmm.
We're back to the second and fourth Saturday of the month. So we really pressed into this last week, actually last night, and it was so beautiful.
Yeah.
And we're kind of continuing the theme of the garden, but we'll get into that a little bit more in a minute.
Yeah. Oh, just 1 second.
Yeah.
So I wanted to say, guys, if you guys have any topics you want us to go over or want us to talk about, please email us or reach out to us on Instagram at our Open Waters Worship Instagram account, or feel free to message me on Facebook, Josiah Campbell It's not just going to be Josiah Sanchez on Facebook, or email us at openwaterworship.com, because we'd love to answer your questions. Because you guys will also, what you guys want to listen to, we're here to help you guys learn how to worship, but we also want to make it so this content is what you guys are wanting to, or what God's putting on your heart. So
that's right. Absolutely. We want to be encouraging to you.
Yeah.
And bottom line, inspiring you to worship more and to grow in that. Yep. So Josiah, what's our Little Mo About Us segment today? What's the question you're asking today?
So I originally asked in the other video, is she a dog person or a cat person?
But we already answered that.
We did. But I think you should answer it again. No, I'm just kidding. No, I already did that last time.
Okay.
The question I asked was, are you a TV person, like a channel switching person, or a streaming service person?
So, basically we have a bundle package because they have the handy dandy sales pitches that they do. And so my husband used to work for Xfinity. Oops, I didn't mean to say the name, but I said the name. Anyway, he worked for a company. And so we got less expensive service. And then, of course, we got offered to get home security. So we have home security and we have our internet. So, but to be honest with you, Josiah, I mostly watch streaming stuff these days because I can really pick what I want to watch and things like that. I don't know. I don't have to be exposed to a lot of woke crap either as much. You still have to be careful.
Okay, hold up. I will say a lot of the streaming services for nowadays are Netflix was one of them, and I will say it was kind of poop because they're putting out a lot of woke stuff.
That's true. I started to say that, and then I'm like, wait, hold on. I'm having to there are so many things I can't watch now that I choose not to watch.
That a lot of the CEOs of companies are realizing it's, if you go woke, you go broke.
Disney. Yes.
Oh, wow. That was not planned, guys. That wasn't in the last episode, but guys. No, yeah, Disney just got a new CEO. I'm not sure if he's not
new CEO,
but but he's just going to be, switching from being woke skis to being not broke skis anymore.
There you go. That's right.
He just, I don't know much about the guy, I also know that Netflix, they didn't switch the CEO, but they did switch out the people that are content planning for him.
Oh, good.
And so the people that were trying to push all this woke agenda things and content on their channels, they realized that they ain't working. And also they had this really weird show they were planning, but we're not going to go into that.
We're not going to go into that.
We're not going to go into that. But we're here about...
So I take it you're a live streamer then?
I am a streamer. I don't actually have much time right now because of how much I'm doing with life, different avenues of that, just trying to grow financially, spiritually, physically, get skinnier that way, but not trying to grow that way right now. But there's just not much time, but I am a streamer. I do like to watch online. I like to stream shows.
Speaking of streaming, I am so proud of you. So you're doing all sorts of stuff. You have your consulting company, JRAX. You've now dubbed yourself the Dream CEO, which I love. I love it. But anyway, you also, do Open Waters Worship, and you have your traditional job that you do as well. And but I'm just so proud of you because we did just move over to getting some new sound equipment, and we were able to live stream on Instagram. And I just want to say, if you do watch our live or our reel of our last night's Open Waters Worship, if it ends abruptly, we're sorry. Go ahead to YouTube and you can watch the whole thing that was streamed. Because we actually ran out of battery. Yes, that's an issue. Apparently we need to watch.
Also, feel free to comment on sound changes, because I obviously am not online while I'm playing keys, so I don't know how exactly it sounds.
Yeah.
I just do my best. So guys, I just worship here, so.
Yep. Yeah, in fact, we didn't know that it had ended abruptly on Instagram because we were in the middle of worshiping. So, anyhow, so Josiah, tonight we're talking about guarding the gates of your garden.
Yes.
Yeah.
Jace.
So really, this is something that I'm just going to go ahead and read from Proverbs 4.
Go for it.
It talks about verses 20 through 27. This is the Amplified version. My son, pay attention to my words and be willing to learn. Open your ears to my sayings. Do not let them escape from your sight. Keep them in the center of your heart, for they are life to those who find them and healing and health to all their flesh. Watch over your heart with all diligence, for from it flow the springs or the issues of life. Put away from you all deceitful lying, and put devious lips far from you. Let your eyes look directly ahead, and let your gaze be fixed straight in front of you. Consider well and watch carefully the path of your feet, and all your ways will be steadfast and sure. Do not turn away to the right or to the left, where evil may lurk. Turn your foot from the path of evil. And so, I think this is just a really good verse that talks about, it mentions several avenues or gates through which both entry into this garden inside of us and exit of this garden inside of us happens. And if this is a verse of wisdom, it comes from a book of wisdom that talks about pay attention. Be willing to listen and really pay attention to this. Guard your heart. And so just to kind of recap a little bit, if you didn't listen to our whole podcast last week, we talked about essentially that we were created in a garden. Then, of course, sin came. God walked with us when we were in the garden. Then sin came and we ended up getting out of the garden. Then Jesus came back. He toiled over going to the cross in a garden. He was laid to rest in the tomb in a garden. He rose in the garden. He's going to come back in the garden, the eastern gate. And we have this garden inside of us now. We have Jesus inside of us. We have just this beautiful thing. And there's so many analogies. Even when we were last night really contemplating and meditating upon this, there's so many analogies with the garden and through his word and just in nature itself that just really speak. And if you can just imagine inside of you, this heaven inside of you, you're this outpost of heaven, and you have this life that's growing inside of you, and you got to guard it because it's life. And things come in and they kill, and things go out and they can be damaging or they can be good. And you can release things from you that you're not supposed to release, and you can receive things that you're not supposed to, but what you're supposed to be doing is receiving and giving in ways that are through the gates. And so we have gates all about us. We have gates to our body, gates to our soul, which is our mind, will, and emotions, and gates to our spirit, in which things come in and things go out. And so, that's my little dissertation before we really dive in. So what do you think, Josiah?
It's good. It's good.
It's good.
Yeah. And I just want to put anybody like that may be thinking when we talk about gates, we're not talking about anything like a lot of other religions have these different gates. We're not talking about like chakra gates.
You mean
or
okay.
Like different things like that.
Gotcha.
We really just mean the Bible talks about the gates into our soul. Like we have our eyes, we have our ears, things that actually that come into our soul that we allow. It's like receptors. Essentially, it's like a computer. It has input sensors. We have input sensors. Those are the gates.
Yeah.
And then we have the gates out, like our mouth, our tongue. We have the life and death in our tongue.
Absolutely.
But we also have the chance to reject or to allow different people to speak different things over us. Are we allowed to see different things, ourselves to see different things? Or are we allowed to, I don't know, smell different things that might remind us of different things? You know what I'm saying?
Totally.
And so the gates, meaning we have these receptors that can affect us spiritually.
Yeah. Yeah. And I just want to I always bring this up whenever we talk about, different spiritual things. Like for instance, you said chakra or gates, kind of in that respect. What has happened is they've taken something that God has created and that is existing because of the way he set things up, and people have taken that and perverted it and used it for, the enemies come in, and perverted it. And then Christians say, oh no, that's not true. Well, it's not true with what they're saying because they've taken it, they've done a counterfeit, it's attached to the demonic. But what God really did intend, they just took it and ran with it. And then we as the church a lot of times have said no, and then we've kind of disassociated from some things.
Yeah, now we don't even address those things anymore.
Right. So I was reading this article and just kind of preparation for what we're going to talk about, and it's called God Talk. Now I'm not fully aware of where they stand on a lot of different things. So this is not an endorsement of them. It's just I did want to cite them as a source that we were using because I did like some things that they said, and one of the things that they talked about is a gateway is a place of authority where dominion is exercised. Whoever controls your life's different gateways exercises authority, dominion, and control over you. So this is case in point why it's important to guard the gates, because what you allow in or what controls those gates has authority in your life. And I want the authority that I'm operating in when there's this war between our spirit and our flesh. I want it to be my spirit. I want it to be the Spirit of God. I want it to be things that are from the Lord. And I want to make sure that I'm guarding that gateway because it's a place of authority and dominion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Bill, you didn't ask me a question.
So what do you think are some gateways to our spirit, Josiah?
What are some gateways to our spirit?
Mm-hmm.
Well,
like what I mean by that is through which we really can experience the presence of God, where he's pouring into us life and his presence.
Number one, I would say, is worship.
Yes.
Worship is one of the biggest, if not the biggest, way that we pour out the garden inside of us, or we receive in the garden inside of us. I like to, because a lot of people say that when they're in worship, they're either pouring out when they worship, or we're receiving, because we always ask God to pour out like his glory, pour out his blessing. And, so it's we receive, it's this two-way street, it's God giving and us giving.
Yeah.
And God doesn't do much other than just show up, and that's all we can really do. You know what I'm saying? We can't even be in the same room as God because we'd pass away. But
we would
disintegrate,
melt,
be smoten,
explode.
But
do not compute.
Mm-hmm. And it's just a two-way street with God during worship. And
I love that.
Exchange.
For me, 100%. The gateway for me of really, and I do want to allow where God I want this gate to be totally open to the Lord, is through worship. I mean, just for me, even in, you have quiet time, devotion time, whatever, worship attached to that, it exponentially increases the connection. In fact, I feel like I haven't really connected with God if I haven't worshiped him. And for me, that includes music on some level, or gratitude that leads me to just sing out or just to thank him, or just, I I cannot express how much that opens me up. And that's the thing is, why do we have these gates? Why did God create us with gates? Because it leaves us to be possibly hurt, body, mind, and spirit. Well, because it was designed to be a good thing. It was designed for us to receive more of him, to experience more of him, and to have authority in all of these areas. But then there's sin. And even though Jesus took it, and when he died, all of it was taken care of, and we say yes. And then we're saints, man. We're not sinners any longer, but we still live in a sinful world where there's constant barrage that comes against our gates. So worship 100%. I would say prayer, of course, and falls into that. For me, another thing is revelation. It's just like even last night when we were, oh my gosh, we hit this one point where it was towards the end and the presence of the Lord just got so rich. And I even started just singing out a new song about flowers. And I was just having this revelation. It was like I was transported to a different place, and I was just having this major revelation from the Lord, and I could feel my gate to my spirit open, and I could feel this influx of the presence and the life of God pouring into the garden that I have inside. And then of course it gushes out everywhere around me. So revelation, when you just start to learn more about God, it's an incredible gateway to your spirit. What else, Josiah, what do you think is another gateway to your spirit, through which the presence of God is allowed in?
Revelation is a really good one. I think just reading the Bible kind of goes along with revelation, and so does quiet time, because both of those times it's like it's pretty much a mirror image of our physical gates. Yeah. Because in worship we're using our mouth. Yeah. And that's a gate. And then when you pray, you're using your mind and your thoughts and your ears, because you're listening for God, your spiritual ears, you know what I'm saying? And then with reading, it's again your eyes. We're reading the Bible, we're catching revelation. And so I think we covered most of them.
Yeah, I think also like just when you're walking out faith and hope, love, I think when you're walking that out, something happens. Like when you're believing in faith for something, when you're hoping for something, it's almost like you can feel your heart, like the Grinch, growing, you know, because it's just, you feel it inside of you. I don't know. It's overwhelming. You can literally feel it in your spirit. So, okay. So we're trying beings just like God, right? So what are some soul gateways? The soul would be your mind, your will, your emotions. What would be some gateways to the soul that it's important for us to guard?
Pretty similar to the spirit.
Well, I would say like the choices that you make, those can really affect your soul. So just different things, like say in the last podcast we talked about, if you're choosing to put things before your eyes that are hurtful, or, you know, pornography or whatever, then that is going to affect your mind. It's going to affect your will. It's going to affect your emotions. And this is your soul. And so the choices that we make affect us and our souls. I mean, it affects our spirit and our bodies too, but and then another big one is our imagination. Why don't you speak to that a little bit?
Well, imagination is one of those ones where it's like we said, it's the gateway, so it's both ways. But this one, a lot of the time, it's us pouring out because we have ideas and we have creativity, and it just gets to flow. So when you start imagining things, it's just like, okay, this is cool, or okay, this is not right. You know what I'm saying? Because it can be good or bad. You know what I'm saying? But you have control to take your thoughts captive, and so your imagination is huge.
Yeah, because so when you start to really imagine, you meditate, your mind is powerful, and it affects your soul. what you think about all the time and what you really dwell upon in your imagination, the stories that you create, then that does directly affect, your soul and what's happening inside you,
Mm-hmm.
your mind, your will and emotions. So then we have our body. What do you think are some gateways to our body? I think
this one is the easiest
Yeah.
out of the other ones. You had a little bit more time to prepare than I did on this topic, but this one's pretty easy. You got your 5 senses, and those are all the different gateways. And so you obviously what you watch, what you ingest with your eyes, what you say, what you hear. And I would say, like, when people hear, like, their touch and their smell, like, those can't be spiritual gateways as well, but they can be, because, or physical gateways, because if, like, a lot of the time when you smell something, you can remember back to what that reminds you of. That could be good or bad, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And so, and a lot of these senses have the opportunity to be, perverted in different ways. And so.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, that's the thing that I think is really important, is to know that once an area of the body, for instance, once there's been an injury, let's say, in the area of touch or sight, or any of these areas, or hearing, once there's been trauma there, it's almost like, if you think of the gate, it has been pulled apart. So it's a vulnerable place for things to come in, or the lock's been broken in. When there's trauma that hasn't been dealt with in that area in the body, then it will forever be a space through which things can enter, a vulnerable place, like a chink in your armor, until you really address it, until you push into the pain, you get the forgiveness, you do whatever you need to get healing in that area. And that's when it's fortified and the walls are built back up. It was really interesting today. So we went to Genesis Project Provo. We have some friends that pastor down there, and it's I would say about half of the congregation is homeless. And it was, so one of the gentlemen got up in between after worship, transitioning to the sermon. You can tell he's had a rough life. I believe he did mention that he had been in prison. He had gang activity. Well, he watched, so with his eye gates, he saw his mom get shot and killed, and just a stray bullet hit her. And then he also witnessed his 16-year-old daughter run over his 4-year-old daughter and kill her. And then she went off the deep end, and I guess she's still in that place. And so he has experienced so much through the eye gates, right? He ended up in prison at some point after witnessing his mom, being shot, and then all these things with his children. So, when we have an injury like that, it takes healing. And I was just, another gentleman while we were there, he had like he started cursing at the pastor as he was preaching, and, kind of making a scene. And there is mental issues there, but I started just really crying and thinking, these people did not get here because of just they're evil people, or they're a bad batch, right? No, they probably were sexually abused, physically, verbally, with the mouth, the ear gates, the eye gates saw things, and it was unfinished business. It never got addressed. So those gates stayed open. More came in, influencing through their body, into their spirit, into their soul, because then, it just creates a domino effect. And it actually, I was crying this morning because I just was thinking, they didn't get there because they're just bad people. They got here because, one of those areas in their gates really experienced trauma. So, anyway, got anything to say, Josiah?
No, that's pretty huge. Is just also, give grace to people for their stuff. You know what I'm saying? Because not everybody has the same experiences in life, and not everybody has the had their chance to, talk about everything with everybody.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? They haven't been able to, go over these boundaries that have been crossed, or these lines that have been crossed in their gates. Right. Maybe they just,
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah. One of the things I do too, just to kind of fortify the gates is, I'm just aware of what's going in, what's going out, because we have the gates in that we receive, an intake. Then we have the gates that come out that are outtake, that are flowing out around us. And so we want to guard both, right? Because it's a cycle. It's created to be a beautiful cycle. But, so I really try to take the time to be aware of what's coming in and what's going out. I also will pray. Like, I pray over all of my family and loved ones and friends. But even Caleb, he is your youngest brother, and he still lives in the home. He's a junior in high school. And so before he leaves every morning, I pray over him. And one of the things I pray over him almost every day is, God, guard the gates in and the gates out, because he is on the front lines in our schools with everything that's being taught, and just surrounded by kids that are trying to figure out their identities, school systems that are teaching things many times that are opposed to what we believe. And so I just pray for him over all those gates that go in and the gates that are going out over him. So those are things that we can do to help kind of fortify those gates too. What do you think? Is there anything that you would?
I would just, really be intentional with what you do with your time. Because I know some people have to, you have to work. You obviously make sure you're able to live life. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But when you're at home and you're you don't know what to do with your time, make sure you pay attention to what you're doing with your time. Because that tends to be the time where people, they just, since they don't know what to do with their time, they're just kind of like, oh, I'm just going to go do this and whatever. I'm bored, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Or maybe this is they're addicted to something, or, you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And so it's really pay attention to the time that is less busy, because when you've got time on your hands, a lot of stuff your mind gets to wander and stuff like that. And
sure. Or when you're just tired, exhausted.
Or you're tired.
I think the other thing too is kind of what I alluded to with trauma. I mean, just if you're noticing patterns, things are coming in or things are coming out that you're like, ooh, as you're watching your intake and outtake, like, ooh, that's kind of questionable. Or you feel like the life is getting sucked out of you in a bad way, or you just don't feel growth inside of you in this garden inside. Just really maybe look and see, hey, God, is there a vulnerable gate in my life? Is there some part of me that is either by just habits or otherwise, coping, or trauma that I experienced, in even in the body or in other ways, through one of these gates, and just ask God to show you, and then take the steps to fortify that gate and to receive healing.
Yep. I would also say, crap, I had it and then I lost it.
Ooh, I hate that.
Ooh, dang it.
So I was talking about just if there was trauma, going back.
Yeah. Maybe it'll come up.
Okay.
But any other thoughts?
No, I think that's probably all I really wanted to say about it. Do you have anything else that you feel like the Lord is wanting to say or prompting?
Yeah. Well, no, not really. But, guys, just make sure you guys don't leave any gate unchecked. Don't put no guards at gates. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. If there's a castle, which represents your body, you're a temple. If we didn't have any men or angels or idea what's happening at the gates, then how are you supposed to address it? And so with that said, also don't be afraid to be real with yourself and be like, okay, on your outtake specifically, make sure that you're being real with yourself in the sense that, oh, that doesn't seem good. So maybe I should do something or work on this. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like maybe you're cursing too much or whatever. I mean, whatever your idea is on that. Or maybe you're looking at this, or maybe you're thinking this too much. You know what I'm saying? Make sure you are being willing to address it and to actually be real with yourself.
I think another thing, as you're talking, I'm thinking of, we're going to have a podcast coming up here either next time or the one after that, called the Community Garden. And I think it's important to just be in community, because when you're in community, there should be the ability to speak the truth in love and to receive the truth from others in love.
And not just be offended.
Right. And so to keep this garden growing. So I think that's it for today, right? Yeah. Hey.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate you guys listening in. And like we said at the beginning of this episode, if you have any questions that you want talked about on this podcast, leave it down in the comments of YouTube. If you're listening to this on YouTube, or if you're listening to this on any of the major streaming platforms, to reach out to us on Instagram or email us at openwaterworship@gmail.com.
For sure. All right. We'll talk to you next time. Happy Monday.
All right. Bye.
Bye.